This is the point. My son is now walking around at 13 stones 5. That's 187 pounds. So literally he can't get down, literally. Okay, and such a big build-up or expose on the Eubanks, he's not, let's get to the point. Canelo is the only person he's going to be able to fight now to redeem any type of respect from the fighting public. I mean, talking about real fighters, real boxing people.
Who, your son or Conor?
No, my son.
Your son got a lot of respect back after beating Liam Smith in the second fight, though, didn't he?
Yeah, well, that's not me talking. I mean, I know how you win respect. Okay?
No, fair enough.
And it's not beating a Liam Smith who stopped you. So I don't want to get into that. Junior, this is what my view is. Your saving grace is going to be Canelo. That's it, period. You're never going to get back down to 160. I won't allow that to happen anyway. And when you're walking around at 13 stones 5, you're not going to get down. So you're a 168 fighter. Canelo is your way out, or the way to win respect. And you cannot beat him. Not Canelo. The only way you can beat him is if Daddy is next to you. That's it, period. That's an American term for full stop. Is there anything else to say? No, there isn't. Only that.
Yeah.
That's a done deal. Now, 147 fights 147. Now, there's only one undefeated Eubank left, and that's Harlem. 19 fights, 19 wins. Okay? I've heard Conor talking about... he's talking about all of the top fighters in the world. I mean, I'm talking about Crawford. How are you talking like that? What have you done? Well, look, my son, my surrogate son, he wants to go and conquer the world too. So this is the fight that I stand for. Whoever wins this particular fight, Conor Ben versus Harlem the Gold Eubank, whoever wins that fight goes ahead and then conquers the world. That can be your, let's say, your prize. But, Conor talking about Crawford, what are you talking about?
Okay.
You haven't, I mean, it seems to me as I go back and look, I'm the only one giving him credibility. I don't believe he had anything to do with being juiced up. He got juiced up, his team juiced him up, whoever they are. That's my view. I don't think he had anything to do with it.
They'll have a different view on that, of course.
And I don't mind them coming.
Yeah.
You know what? Please come and talk to me. Because if you do, then we can get more things out in the open. Hold on. We can get more things out in the open. That's one. Two, where Harlem is concerned, he's 19 fights. He's unbeaten. He's the Eubank that you want. So this promoter, who is somehow got him as some type of... He's not doing anything. He's in no man's land. And now he's fighting a guy called Pete Dobson.
Yeah.
Who is this guy? I'm looking at him. Hold on. I'm looking at him, this Dobson, and I'm looking at, back in the day, they used to use a term, okay? Ooh, I think they may have dug that one up. He may still be warm. That's the type of fighter he's fighting. I don't disrespect him, but I'm talking about how the game goes. Right. They dug him up, okay, and he is still warm. Okay? That's how they talk about the Pete Dobson of my era, which is why I don't speak about Mr. Smith.
But you know the economics of how this works.
No,
but let's be real. Let's not be idealistic.
No, I can't look at the economics, because if I look at the economics, then you're bringing me into the world of cheats. But I can't do that. Not with my nephew, who is my son, and not with my son, who is junior. I can't get into the economics.
They're talking about Harlan, right?
Yeah.
And the idea that Conor fights Harlan.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or you don't like it, and I know that you believe that you were instrumental in stopping the first fight. It wasn't just that Conor failing a drug test; it was your will, right? And so it's proven to be the case they haven't fought. But to get Harlan in the ring with Conor, the economics will dictate, not your will and not your wishes, whether Hearn and his gang, that I know that you have respect for, but don't like the way they're operating in certain respects with your son. If the economics aren't there, you're not getting Harlan and Conor Ben in the ring anytime soon.
And why wouldn't the economics be there?
Why would they?
Why would they? Because I'm standing with him. Yeah, me.
So it's about you.
Now get this clear. Yes.
Okay.
It's about you.
You have to have a promoter. You have to have a face that draws. I've made hundreds of millions of pounds for Sky Television, hundreds of millions of pounds for ITV. it said hundreds of millions of pounds for Matchroom. Who put them there? Who do you think put them there? I'm not bigging myself up. 1994, I brought Barry Hearn into Sky. They gave me an 8-fight deal. How do you think the fishing? How do you think the darts? How do you think he rose in Matchroom? You have to have someone to bring you in. Yeah, look, Pandit, right? Yes, so dreadlocks.
No, that's great.
Yeah, it may be great. You say so,
but it's also
everyone's
everyone's a catalyst, and everyone finds their levels. And I suspect that Barry Hearn was also instrumental in some of the successes you had alongside your talent.
Of course, he was.
Right. Okay.
Only here's the difference. Okay.
Yeah.
He got me. I didn't get part of Matchroom, but let me tell you what. In my view, Matchroom. You think any of those guys, the CEOs, and you think these chairmen, you think they could have a position? If I wasn't there at that time, I couldn't have done what I did without Barry Hearn.
Yes.
Okay.
Mutual benefit, yeah.
But
so you're saying, Chris, that your name is the reason that Harlem, your nephew, should go in against Conor Benn?
Well, let me tell you what person on earth who watches boxing is not going to take, who's not going to buy a pay-per-view if I am with Harlem? I'm telling you that he beats Conor Benn. He beats him. Okay, that means I put my reputation behind him. That means the hundreds of millions of pounds I've made for these networks, that person is sitting next to him.
What if it can't happen here in the UK?
What if it can't? This is what I would say to that. Where his license is concerned, I get involved, I get his license back. But in doing so, I'm gonna have to.
You get Ben's license back?
Yeah.
How are you going to do that?
I know the boss. I'm very close to the boss.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Smith is a sensible man, but the point
I'm not talking about Robert Smith.
Okay, who are you talking about then?
I can't tell you.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll try and work that one back. I'm trying to think who you may be talking about. But this is a public domain matter now, isn't it?
It follows what I said about the fight not happening the first time. Again, everyone seems to forget that I said what I said. And in fact, think of it. If I've made all this money for all these networks, Matchroom, Sky, ITV, you've seen what happens when I come into the studio. Credibility. You see, how did I get that credibility? It's being honest.
Well, your achievements. Your achievements.
Yeah, but
I think we should be honest as well.
If you had no achievements,
we should be honest as well, though, Chris. Should Harlem get the fight? Not on the back of your name? Should he not get the fight on merit, on his own merit?
And that's exactly what I'm saying. He's 19 fights unbeaten on merit and merit alone. He should have that fight. Why should it be given to somebody else?
Okay. So after he fights Dobson, you think Conor Benn should fight your nephew, Harlem Eubank?
Yes. Yes, I do. And then the winner of that fight then can go and clean up the world. And I know it's me. I read a comment the other day. It went something as follows. I love the relationship between Eubank Jr. and Eubank Sr. Jr., silent and deadly. He's a killer. He doesn't say anything. And the dad comes in strutting. He's rolling his shoulders. He's dancing. He's reciting poetry. It's the perfect combination. And that's what Harlem now has with his dad, his surrogate dad. So, as much as you may not like the control that I say I have on this.
I don't have a view on it.
Well, you have one now. I don't
have a view on it.
Well, this is the narrative.
I have a view on whether the fight can be made.
Okay. And why can't it be made? They're both 147. And as I said, Junior is now walking around at 187 pounds. It is madness.
But let's move. I've always been in total agreement with you.
You have
a total agreement with you, and you'll never. No, I've always been in total agreement with you. Either you haven't listened, or I haven't made it clear. I've always been in total agreement with you.
At the end of our interview, when we last had that interview on your show up front,
don't point,
you
Chris,
said
that's rude.
You said like this. So you're going to stop it? How are you going to do that?
Because I thought what you were saying was ridiculous, and
yes,
I still do.
Yeah. So now the third face or the second face shows.
No, it doesn't. It's the same
yes,
face.
it does. You just don't like what
you just don't like what I'm saying.
Well, earlier on, Chris, you said
if it doesn't make sense,
I have never agreed. Hang on, Jim. I have never agreed that your son should be fighting Conor Benn. Never agreed with that. Now we move on to the Harlan Conor Benn fight. Never. I thought it was a bad fight for both of them. I thought all they were doing was trading off your...
You said to me, how are you going to stop it?
No, to be fair, I've heard them say that,
But that's two different things, Chris. You're conflating two different arguments. My point is the Hearn fight, Hearn Eubank fight against Conor Benn doesn't happen for two reasons. The economics aren't there. You may think that you can get them. And Conor Benn has a serious problem about being able to overcome the British Boxing Board of Control's wishes because they've gone public domain with it. Now, I hope he does. Then if he does... then we can have that conversation. Okay. But at no point have I ever said that your son should fight Conor Benn at 160. I thought it was a freak show of a fight. Always thought it was.
Well, it doesn't seem to me that you have been...
Well, listen then. Because I've said it repeatedly, and we've discussed it repeatedly, you and I, on two separate occasions.
No, we haven't discussed it repeatedly. And again, I say to you, you talk out of two sides of your face.
No, I don't. One. Straight down the line, like you. Straight down the line. Don't need to.
I know what you are.
You don't.
Okay, I am not. I haven't been.
I'm a journalist. Last time you saw me, apparently, according to you.
Listen to what he's saying.
Chris, look at me.
Hold on a minute.
What is he then? What is he?
Two-faced, according
to
him.
Ask him.
What is he?
He says he's not a journalist.
Never mind him. You said you know what he is. What is he?
He's a journalist. He's a journalist, and a journalist trying to actually get traction.
I'm going to go and have a wash now.
He's trying to get traction in the world of gladiators.
I'm climbing on the shoulders of giants.
Yes, you are.
Don't be so bloody silly. I don't need you for anything.
Explain that.
I don't need you.
I didn't say you needed me.
Anything.
I didn't say you needed me.
So I don't climb on anyone's shoulders. So if you're going to make specific observations about people, be right.
I am right.
You're not right. You're not right.
Hold on. If you're saying you're not a journalist, then either I don't know what the word journalist means, or you are deluded.
Or both. Or both.
Now, Chris, what we can do is this.
Is he a journalist?
You said it. You said
no.
I'm a journalist.
He's a journalist.
So what is he? Tell me.
Pundit.
An entrepreneur, a businessman, like yourself.
He paid me money to come to a studio and sit down and have an interview.
Well, he didn't do it personally.
Huh?
You were paid to go there and be interviewed by Simon.
We had a chat.
You had a chat.
We had a chat.
But Simon didn't pay you.
Who? So it was
as far as I got.
On whose account was it? On whose account was I there? Simon.
I have no idea.
Simon, I'm sorry to be the first one to tell you, and they do the pronoun thing. I ain't doing that. You are a journalist.
Thank you.
You interview people.
What's to do with it? I have a discussion with you, not an interview. We had a discussion.
No, you're a journalist.
You moved from. I mean, I actually agree with you on the DAZN thing because I think VOD. If people can subscribe to Netflix, they can subscribe to DAZN. I actually don't think DAZN is a particularly good platform. Some of the content I've watched it hasn't been very good, and it surprises me that you've got to put the price up to $19.99 and whatever else.
Only if you don't
pay £99 up front. Right?
Or $9.99 a month.
All right, okay. But the point for me is did any of these fighters, because they'll go with you, because I've always been a major advocate. I know how you pay your fighters. I know what you do and when you do it. Not what you pay them, but I know that you're straight down the line. No one mucks about you. They get paid on Monday morning after their fights. And I've always said that about you, both to you and about you.
Is that a compliment?
No, it's absolutely a compliment, because in this game, a lot of them don't, right? And he's always done that. But that doesn't alter the fact that when these guys came with you, say a Coley or Boazzi that were with you, and they moved to DAZN, they've all come away from it, or certainly in those two instances, with a great feeling that this might be all right for Matchroom, but it hasn't been particularly good for us. And then you're quite... Rather than accept the fact that sometimes you speculate to accumulate and sometimes you accept the fact that you run the risk of investing in fighters, you don't make it every single time, you seem to be quite acerbic and facetious and vitriolic about people that choose not to take up your particular conditionality. I understand the fact if you want to make him a fight again, if it's a rematch clause against Bivol, I understand that. But if you want to stick him on a free fight deal after that, why should he need to?
No, he doesn't have to. He has the option to.
But after that, what you've done is becoming quite bitter and facetious about it.
I do, every day, but mostly around fights, I do 50 or 60 interviews a day with outlets. I get asked various questions. Sometimes my responses aren't perfect. Sometimes I speak from the heart, which I will always do, and I'll speak honestly. In my opinion. Right, whether you think I'm factually incorrect, like I do you on something.
Whether I think you're a snake oil salesman.
No. Well, I think that's a bit harsh. There's a lot I can say about you personally, but
you have. You've said things about me personally.
Not really.
You said I'm the king of hypocrisy with no basis for that.
You are the king of hypocrisy, but you talk like you're some kind of business expert. We know how that went for you.
No. In order to lose a lot of money, you have to make it in the first place. And if you're telling me to make 100 million
it's a marathon, not a sprint,
make 100 million quid, to make 100 million quid out of one business in 5 years, no, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No,
you went bankrupt.
No, I didn't.
What? Crystal Palace Football Club.
Don't be stupid.
Crystal Palace Football Club.
Don't be stupid, Eddie. I didn't go bankrupt at all.
Crystal Palace Football Club.
And don't say silly things that can get you into trouble, because I didn't go bankrupt in the slightest.
In that case, I apologise.
What I did was, like everybody else that has challenges in life.
Yeah.
No. What I did was, as the biggest creditor, because of the biggest banking crisis in the world, I took a view that I could no longer fund it anymore, put it into administration and wrote off 50 million quid. On the basis of the fact that I made 100 million quid. So get your facts right,
I apologise. You
Right.
took the club
So you
into
should.
administration.
No, I didn't take it into administration. A secured creditor put it in there, and I had to take my medicine, which I've never complained about.
No, and I
I've never
admire you
bitched
for
and
that,
whined
but-
about it.
but-
I've never
but
gone
you-
about the fighters that ran off with me and I invested in them and started crying about it.
Well, you've
I
cried
took my
about many
medicine.
things. No.
No, I haven't.
But also,
Never cried about anything.
But you sit there and you don't acknowledge any side of business. What I'm saying to you, because you don't acknowledge the situation. Lawrence Okoli, another situation. Okay, you have to make a call. Go back to the Crystal Palace days, right? And I'll say this to you: a player, right, gets an offer for, is out of contract or his contract's approaching. We've been there
It's
with
a
Leighton
different
Orient.
analogy, but I understand what
We've
you
been there
mean.
with Leighton Orient, and all of a sudden you have an option to pay a certain amount of money or to let the fighter go. You have to
course.
make a commercial decision
Agree.
based on the ability of that player or the fighter, the draw, the numbers, everything around
But
it.
there's no. But
Get
the
that.
point I was making, there's no implied criticism of that observation, right? Because the guy, you pay your money, he takes your choice, right? And so does the fighter. But the reaction from the fighters about being on DAZN is not a particularly complimentary one.
I disagree.
And it would seem that they had no choice, and I suspect that's probably the reality of their world that they live in, which is when you pitched up sticks and decided that Sky was no longer for you and a better opportunity for Matchroom and your $1 billion pursuit, which, by the way, chapeau, well done for you. If you can get 60 million from Matchroom boxing and make £12 million a year, fantastic.
Just boxing.
Nice business.
Not the
I know,
group.
I know, it's just boxing. I know. I looked at the numbers the other day. Well done, you. 20% net on net, very good. But the point is this, is that they look at it and they don't fancy it. And they don't fancy the dynamic of what you've created for them. And to some extent, I understand the reasons why.
Yeah, but you're talking about a couple of isolated incidents who get people in their ear. The others that might say, it's been unbelievable for me. I've boxed in America. I've boxed globally. I've boxed on the Canelo Alvarez.
Such as whom would say that?
Well, I think Yafai. I mean, Boatsi's one of them. Katie Taylor.
Well,
another
Boatsy doesn't
example.
say it, does he? Boatsi's gone. So
No, but
Boatsi's not a good example, is he?
Yeah, I know. I said you asked me who boxed internationally on those cards.
No, I asked you who would say something positive
I
about
think
it.
I think anybody that's taken that opportunity.
Well,
and,
I'll be interested to see how positive
Katie
you are,
Taylor,
Eddie, about
Dillian
AJ
White's
fighting
fight in
Jermaine
America.
Frank.
He cut his forehead.
Well,
and that's hardly an issue for a boxer, really. And it's the same. We've got
still
to
needs to heal,
we've got to have an
doesn't
equal
it?
playing field. Everybody is proud of people's achievements. Some of the things that comes out of their mouth, I don't think you can be proud of. I don't think you can be proud that
Let's
Anthony
just
Joshua
look at
had an
his boxing.
outburst after the Usyk fight. I don't think you can be proud of certain other things that Tyson Fury has said in the recent
I'm talking
week.
about the merits of his boxing.
But let's look at the
He's
merits.
world
Let's
champion.
look at the merits of the argument, and he's been given plenty of praise for that, and unfortunately a little bit of criticism, and therein lies a problem.
Well, he fell below the standards
But
that he set the other night.
he has said previously that the fight against Anthony Joshua that he so graciously offered him after Joshua lost to Usyk, and not an MMA fighter that hadn't fought for 2 years and was in his first fight, right, that he should fight him then. So why isn't the same standard? And by the way, we're only judging Tyson Fury, like Adam Cattrall said on his show Saturday evening, by the things that come out of his mouth. He is the one that said this fight will happen on the 23rd of December. Otherwise, I sue people. I'm sorry, I'm not making that up. Neither is anybody else. I'm sure that his
Well,
team
they
and
say a
others
lot of
around him
things
will
go.
try and
Don't
manipulate
they?
it.
They say a
absolutely.
lot of things going into fights, and afterwards, then
hold on.
reality
A
sinks in.
contractual
No, they've got to be
obligation
called
is a
into
contractual
Yeah,
obligation.
but hold on a minute. Tyson Fury is the one that everybody wants to fight, isn't he? He's the collateral in all this. You've got to give him time to be well enough to fight. And would you want to
but
fight him as he, in the shape he
ironically-
was in the other night?
Yes, if I'm Usyk, because it's my one chance of winning. If I'm Usyk,
But then we'll
who, by
always
the
say
way-
that
by
he
the
was
way,
never
has
at his
got
best.
3 belts, and Tyson Fury has got 1. So there is more collateral being brought to the table. We can argue that Usyk doesn't have the same popularity and the charisma that Tyson Fury often and not always exhibits. But notwithstanding it, you need a dance partner, and that dance partner is Usyk that brings 3 belts to the table. And the bottom line with Fury is he operates on a set of standards that he doesn't deploy himself. He's gone into a fight that we saw on Saturday evening that I wasn't going to watch, and circumstances gave me an opportunity to watch. So I climbed back from that position.
I think he's going to come back fighting, though, Simon.
He's going to come back and win.
But
He has
this,
to,
maybe
Martin.
this is maybe
He's
this
gonna
is
come back
maybe
and
this
win.
is the wake up call he needed.
He's going to
because
come back. I mean, let's not lose sight.
complacency must have set in.
behind all of this. Well, Frank
He didn't
Warren,
do it.
Frank Warren
Did he
has
do the
spent-
training?
Frank Warren has spent the entire morning getting very cross with me, telling me that it's got nothing to do with complacency. It's got nothing to do with not being prepared. Pretty much shut my mouth about that argument, because Ngannou was a lot better than people anticipated, and us pundits that talked about him being a novice were wrong. So what I've got to now adjust my argument that the world's greatest heavyweight that we all think has struggled to overcome a 37-year-old MMA fighter that hasn't fought for 18 months, has had knee rebuild surgery, that is making his debut in boxing. That's our WBC glorious generational champion. So we have to give it context, and I couldn't care less.
But they
if his
underestimated
cast
their
don't like this sort of
opponent. Didn't they?
observations.
Maybe he's almost the worst
The bottom
opponent
line
for
is
him.
this, Marcus,
He
is
likes
it
to
not,
bully.
Simon? If it had gone
Fury
to-
bullies his opponents.
If it had gone to plan for Fury on Saturday night in Saudi, and he got rid of Ngannou earlier, he'd be fighting Usyk in December the 23rd.
All we care about really is if we want to be pedantic like certain people are and make it twist on the points, we're only concerned, insofar as either one of us are concerned, is that the fight happens. And I don't care if it happens on December the 23rd or January the 29th. Let's have it right? I only care that it happens. So if people want to start beating people up over dates, the only reason you feel the necessity to do it is because Fury opens his mouth and says the most ridiculous things and then starts getting upset when he gets pulled up about it. The bottom line is that in that fight, there is a really good argument on Saturday to suggest that Tyson Fury didn't win. And there's a really good argument to suggest there were reasons why it was given to him.
Sorry, Tyson Fury's dad, John Fury, made the headlines yesterday after headbutting a member of Team Usyk ahead of a huge fight this weekend for no apparent reason. I mean, he said in the interview, he got in my space, but you can see he just launches for this little fella and smashes him in the head. After the chaos, John Fury spoke to pro boxing fans, their YouTube channel, and called out bizarrely Tony Bellew.
Let's be respectful to one another. All I can say, Usyk. What do you think we're going to stand there with our fingers in our mouth, not doing nothing? I'm full of testosterone, man. I'm ready to go 24 hours a day from my boot to the top of my head. That's what I want to do. I want to get in and stuck in. Whip, 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 whip.
They're saying that maybe Tyson not good with small movers. Do you agree with that narrative? Something that Tony Bellew said in it?
You see Tony Bellew, he'll get a headbutt like he's just got if he comes round me.
Very bizarre. Let's get the thoughts of the man himself, our friend, the wonderful Tony Bellew. Hello, Tony.
Hello, lads, and hello to Gachi, man, listening to us now. I don't know why my name's being mentioned there. And listen, mate, no one's going to headbutt me, full stop. But I don't know why my name's being mentioned there. What was the question he got asked for? What did he say?
I think he was asking him questions about how the fight will go, and then he was saying that you said it will go a certain way.
Yeah, I've made my predictions. That's what I'm paid to do. I'm a paid analyst, live on the zone. And I'll make whatever prediction I want. I don't fear no man, mate, and no man's going to put it on me. You understand this, for every action, there's a reaction. And, you know, it was very bizarre watching that yesterday, to be honest, because there's one guy going head-to-head with him who's the same size as him, and he's rubbing his head back. He didn't feel the need to headbutt him, but he felt the need to headbutt the smallest child in the whole group, which I found quite disturbing, to be honest. But listen, that's leave him to do what he wants to do. One thing I will say is his son, Shane, his other sons, absolute diamonds, gentlemen, carry themselves like proper men, mates. They really do. And they're the lads who the family should be proud of, because they're really good lads, mate. And listen, I like Tyson Fury as well. He might not like me, but I like him. And may the best man win on Saturday night, to be honest.
Just a quick one, Tone, before we move on from that. Do you think it's a good thing for boxing?
No, it's not. It's embarrassing. If my father behaved like that at a press conference, I would put him straight and tell him. It's embarrassing, and it can't be happening, mate. It's a really bad look for boxing. I'm actually surprised it's been allowed to go on and happen in a place where they're at, to be honest. But it is what it is, mate. He's a walking, talking liability. And understand, mate, not everyone's going to put up with that.
Listen, that tells me that you're incredibly frustrated and maybe upset about...
I've never swore on your show before, so I'm really apologetic. I'm sorry, but it infuriates me to drag our sport to the places that it gets to. Now, I've done some silly things at weigh-ins, at press conferences. That's because I've been attacked. I have never been the one who attacks first. You come at me and attack me in any way, shape or form, believe you me, I will take drastic action of my own. And that's just the way I go. And I'm not some big hard case, by the way. I'm just a normal fella who lives a normal, everyday life. No one's ever going to put it on me and get away with it.
Normal fella?
Yeah, and a former champion as well.
Yeah, I am, mate, honestly, God.
Are you going out there at all, Tone?
No, mate, I'm not there. I'm at home. People are going to laugh when they listen to this, but I've got to get home safe to my wife and kids, haven't I, mate? So,
no, that's fine. That's fine. The reason I asked that is he said if you go out there and he sees you, he'll headbutt you. So the next time that you see each other, you know, there's going to be tension, right? What will happen?
Andy, no one's going to butt me, mate. No one's going to do anything to me. And like I said, for every action, there's a reaction. So I don't need to call out John Fury, mate. I've achieved more within 60 seconds of my boxing career than John Fury's ever achieved in his life. He could not even be spoken about in the same breath as me. Now, I never big myself up, ever. But when it comes and competes and compares to the likes of John Fury, listen, mate, just because something shot out of your nuts and became one of the greatest heavyweights in this world, it does not mean you can validate your opinion on every other fighter possible. You have not got the first clue or idea what it's like to be a championship-minded fighter. You got your ass absolutely handed to you off Henry Akin one day. Now get a grip of yourself. Now I'm trying to be as nice and respectful as I can, but he just needs to keep my name out of his mouth because it's got absolutely nothing. I don't fear any man whatsoever. And I include him in that. Like I said before, I've got all the respect in the world for his sons. I think they're lovely lads. I had a good chat with them at the unveiling of Usyk and the Fury, the first press conference. I didn't see him there, but understand me, mate, he's not going to do nothing. No one's going to do anything to me. I've got 2 arms and 2 legs like everyone else, and it won't happen. I won't have it. Simple.
Can I don't want to stir the pot anymore. I mean, it's stirred enough, but I'm curious. You know him, I don't. I know he's sometimes quite abrupt when he talks. John.
I've met him. I've come across him a few times, and I've always found him pleasant when I've come across him.
What I was going to ask, I mean, I've seen him quite abrupt sometimes, and maybe quite rude, and maybe in your face with a few people. I've never seen him behave like this. What do you put that down to, or is that just John Fury?
No, he's nervous, mate. He's nervous and he's very anxious. I couldn't possibly fathom what he's going through because my children are not fighters. My children can all throw a punch, but if I see my children in a fight, I will be extremely nervous, and I don't want to say it, but I probably do some silly things myself, but I wouldn't put myself in that position. So he knows what the game is, and he can't be claiming we're fighting men. Listen, mate, everyone who's inside of a boxing ring is a fighting man. You're not the only one, believe you me, and you won't be the first and you won't be the last. But I do sympathise with him at times. I didn't sympathise with him yesterday because I think it was a bully boy tactic what he done, and I think it was bang out of order. The first fella goes head to head with you. Why didn't you pull your head back and throw your nugget right into his nose? I mean, it was kind of embarrassing that you've buttered the smallest child on a big squad and you've came out worse off. I mean. It was pretty embarrassing, to be honest. It really was, but it is what it is. Like I said, I've dealt with the Furies over the years. I've known Tyson. I've sparred with Tyson many years ago. I've met his uncle Peter, who's one of the most honourable gentlemen you'll ever meet. Peter Fury is a brilliant, lovely fella. I've met his brother Shane and his other brothers, and I've found them all as proper honourable gentlemen. When I've met John in person, I've found John as an honourable gentleman. I was sparring at their gym with Eddie Chambers for many years when I first went up to cruiserweight. Eddie Chambers, another great fella. So all of these people I know and I've come across. So I've got no reason to badmouth anyone. I'm simply making a prediction of I think Alexander Usyk will win.
Okay.
Now, what's your big problem with that? I don't know, but it is what it is. I don't really care much. That's my opinion. It's what I'm paid to give, and it's to be. If I'm being brutally honest, I know I've forgot more than he actually knows about boxing. Like I could write down everything he knows about boxing on the back of a first-class stamp and still have room for the Lord's Prayer.
Tony, just before we move on, if you are going to be in a room with him and you need backup, let me know. I'll be there. I'll be your wingman, all right?
Andy, I much appreciate that. As much as a black Mancunian as you are, I really appreciate that, mate.
We're Team Bellew.
But I don't need anyone.
Okay,
and I
good.
Don't fear anyone, mate. Unless he learns massive amounts of jiu-jitsu and wrestling tomorrow, then I have no fears whatsoever. Because unless someone knows them couple of disciplines, I'm in trouble. If you don't know them disciplines, then guess what, mate? It's fair game, and I couldn't give a crap.
Frank, good afternoon to you. When you look back at it, how was the experience?
Well, it's a tremendous experience. It was the most important fight, as I said, from the beginning of the 21st century. And it was an epic battle between two gladiators who gave their all and left their all in the ring.
Yeah. How is Tyson? Back here and recuperating? What's his mood?
He's back here. He's, as you say, recuperating. His mood is that he wants the rematch, and that's already signed for, so that will happen.
So when will that be, Frank?
In October.
The rematch is in October in Riyadh, right?
Correct.
Okay, so everybody back out there and it all happens again.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm pleased to hear that. Because obviously I have mixed emotions about Tyson's behaviour over the last 12 months, but never doubted the ability of the fighter. So I'm really pleased that when adversities come knocking, if the claims that he's made over the years that he is the best heavyweight are to be backed up, he needs to take this rematch. He needs to come through adversity and redeem himself in the same way that Lennox Lewis did, the same way that Mike Tyson did, and the same way that Muhammad Ali did at times when they suffered losses. So I'm really pleased to hear that.
Well, before you ask me any more questions, I want to answer what Simon said about his behaviour. And I've got to be honest, and Simon and I We have lots of discussions and so forth, and we agree on a lot of things, and there's things that I don't agree on, and him vice versa.
Indeed.
You know, Tyson is bipolar. And if you go on the NHS website and you're talking about the things that are said, you look on there and you look at the symptoms, and bipolar, by the way, has been the word for the last few years on manic depressive, which is a mental illness, a serious mental illness. And it includes things like mania, feeling very happy, elated, overjoyed, talking quickly, feeling full of energy, easily irritated or agitated, dealing with suicidal feelings, which without treatment they may get stronger, as they did with him because he was very close to that. Self-harm, you know, not just physical self-harm, mental self-harm. And you should avoid drugs and alcohol. And as you know, it was well documented, especially when some of these things were said, which were attributed to him, which some were said and some would, I think, were manipulated. But that's a fact. And then, which I think is something that's quite important for somebody who has bipolar, because my brother committed suicide, as I mentioned to you before, Simon.
Yep.
And he was borderline schizophrenic and suffering from this. And that's why I take exception to what's going down here and how easy and what these throwaway lines are about thuggish behaviour. It says making decisions or saying things that are out of character and others may see as risky or harmful. So that's what he's got, bipolar. What he hasn't done, what thugs do, thugs hit people. He's not hit anybody. Things have been said, a couple of things have been said and so forth, because you say what's in your head. I might, or you might, because we have maybe a bit of filter sometimes, say things to each other.
I understand, Frank, but does this mean that when Tyson and those around him go off with insulting and disrespectful and diminishing comments about others, everyone's just got to accept it and say, okay, Tyson Fury's got bipolar, so we just price that in. When he starts insulting people, which he does regularly, when he starts diminishing people and making personal observations about people, which he does regularly, everyone's just got to say we all must feel sorry for Tyson because he's got bipolar, and all the acolytes around him, all his management team that come out with the same sort of nonsense as well, his father's behaviour over in Saudi, everyone's just got to sit there and say, no, Tyson, we all must now price that into our thinking and give him a pass on it, Frank.
No one's saying that at all.
Well, you kind of are.
And as regarding the team, I mean, you can maybe talk, when you say management, he only has one manager and he only has one dad. And that, whatever they say, that's not Tyson's say. But whatever Tyson says...
But you are judged by the company you keep, Frank, aren't you?
Asked me, let me answer the question you just asked. No, you haven't got to do that. But you should prefix it by saying he's bipolar. And what's in his head, he says, like at the end of the fight, Happy New Year. No one actually said at the end of the fight, in any of the reports, hardly any of the reports I've seen, except the guys who've been waiting to dig their knives into him, no one has said how they embraced each other, the fighters, how Tyson must have kissed him about 3 times.
Frank, I'll give you the alternate view on this. The praise for Tyson Fury over the years from certain quarters has been quite significant. And even in the article that I wrote last week, which you responded to, and one of these digital guys shoved a proportion of it under your nose and you responded to it, referred to him as charismatic, enigmatic, charming, engaging. All of those are taken as a given. And the moment criticism comes, oh, hang on a second, that's unfair. And that's what people get a bit fed up with.
Well, I'll get fed up with what you say when the headlines talks about thuggery.
Well, there was thuggery in Saudi.
That's what the headlines
say. The language that he uses is thuggish and boorish. It is overbearing and unpalatable.
He's never, to my knowledge, been a thug outside the ring to anybody. Who's he hit?
Well, depends what you define thuggery as behaviour.
None of that's happened.
Depends what you're taking exception.
The man is an absolute consummate warrior. You couldn't leave anything in the ring more than he does in every one of these fights.
And no one's questioned that, Frank, have they?
Well, they are. Some people are dismissive of it.
Well, they're not, Frank, and you've alighted upon this, and you're being remarkably defensive of it, and I understand to some extent why. But I don't feel that what you're pushing back against is unfair comment, because it is. I do hear you that certain people are jumping on the agenda because he's lost now and they can really stick the boot in, and I get that and I understand that. But I also think that there's an equitability and fairness. I think the way that, for example, if we're going to talk about vested interest, I think the way that Tyson's engaged and the ban that's been put on talkSPORT is preposterous. And he's cited people like me who have been a major advocate of his over the years, a major supporter of his, because they perceive that one thing has been said. All of a sudden, everything gets up. Then I have to listen to the insulting disposition about how much money I lost, what I am, what I'm not, and everyone's just got to get on with that from Tyson. And there comes a point where people get a bit fed up with it. And so Tyson has made himself fair game for this.
But you're a big boy. You should be able to take it.
I do.
You can't dish it out if you can't take it.
Correct.
And by the way,
so you dish it out, don't you?
Isn't it very? For me, I find it very simplistic. If he's continually getting stick, especially what he got from that idiot Adam Catterall, if he is getting the things that were said about him and so forth, what, he doesn't have to speak to you. There's no obligation to speak to anybody.
And that's
fine. There's a lot of fighters don't even speak to the press. And the Mal, by the way, who are constant. I mean, there's not one. There's about 3 journalists in there who keep kicking him, and that is what it is. So he doesn't speak to the Mal. That's
Frank,
his choice. By the way,
can I ask you, Frank? Can I ask you?
By the way, the Mal normally get 5 million people.
The Mail's a Mail. This is talkSPORT you're on. So, Frank, here's the thing. Does Tyson Fury's bipolar condition affect his mental state when it comes to reacting to criticism?
It's not criticism. It's things he comes out with. He will come out with something. And by the way, he's an intelligent
as Simon
man.
Riley just said, sorry to jump in, Frank, but what amazed us was that, and we're not going to get into the talkSPORT situation, the Simon Jordan, Jim White situation with Tyson Fury, but not that long ago, before he fought Dillian White, Simon and I waited for him in the England dressing room at Wembley. He came in. We felt we were talking to one of our best pals. He started off, Frank, by telling us how much he loves the show. He then went on to tell us how much he enjoys Simon's take on this, that, and the next. Simon's objectivity. He loved all that. And then Tyson changed. Is it because of this mental state regarding his bipolar condition that has brought about this change?
No, not at all. He's reacted to some of the things that you've been saying.
So the bipolar aspect of things has nothing to do with it then, does it?
Sorry, Jim, because you have a voice on the radio and an opinion, that doesn't mean that, that's all okay. If he takes exception to it, he has a personal choice to whether he wants to continue speaking to you or not.
And that's
fine.
He
chose not to.
And that's fine. It. And that means that on the flip side of that, the alternate view of how his behaviour and the reaction to what he then goes on and says and does is the precinct of people like me or Jim or other people. But you guys take exception to that. But other people can't.
No, I don't. I take exception to the fact that I know him. You don't know him. You've met him in the Wembley dressing room. I know him. I deal with him all the time. I know the type of person he is. I know what he's been through. I know seriously what he's been through, some really bad times. And what I say about that is the fact that he's officially diagnosed as being bipolar. So take that into account, all you geniuses who seem to just think you know everything. You don't know. You don't know the background. You don't know the man. And sometimes the things he said, I've cringed at a few times at some of the things he said. But I know what goes down, and I know how it is.
Yeah, but
and
Frank, to jump in here, the fact of the matter,
because I had a brother who went through the similar
understood,
situation.
as you said earlier. But the fact of the matter is, Frank, we should never have ended up where it ended up, in my view. And I've been in this business. Now, hang on, Frank. I've been in this business a long time, the business of broadcasting and opinion. And you can go one moment to having a relationship with someone, as Simon and I had with Tyson, to the next minute it changes. And they ain't coming to Riyadh, and we're not talking to talkSPORT. And you, as his promoter, Frank, had a duty to say to Tyson, that's ridiculous, they're coming, and you talk to them like you talk to anyone else.
No, I don't have a duty to do that at all. He's a man. He's over 21 years of age. That's up to him what he wants to do.
But you're telling us his decision-making is affected by the condition he has.
So, Jim, I'm going to go and have a row with the guy who I'm very close to. I'm going to have a row with him over you guys.
Might not have been a row.
Well, you can let me answer, because it will be a row, because he won't want to do it.
Your job's to advise.
All right, you invite me on the program. At least hear what I've got to say.
Cool.
So you asked me to speak to him, which I did, and Liam, who's your boss, asked me. We spoke and we tried to build these bridges. We were quite close. Then another load of crap come out, which I didn't agree with. And I've got to be honest, I found some of the things offensive, what was said about him and what was going on. But that is what it is. Not just you, and it's not just you. It's been we've had many conversations about this. So at the end of the day, what do you think? I'm going to keep going to battle for talkSPORT? No, I'm not. I'm not going.
But the crazy thing is, we have a great relationship with you, Frank. We continue to do so.
But you don't have to, Frank.
And you do, but
you don't have to go for battle, Frank. But you cannot. I think you know me relatively well, Frank. I'm an equitable, objective man. I stand by every single observation I've made about Tyson Fury, both good and bad. And you guys take all the compliments and none of the criticism. And it seems to me like a one-dimensional set of thinking. And I expected better. And if we're not going to get better, that's fine. It's no big deal.
Simon.
It's no big deal.
Simon, so did I from you. Because what you've not done any time in any of your columns or anything is mention that you've got bipolar.
Oh, mate, I tell you what, if I'd have written a column about Tyson Fury's medical condition, you'd have been over me like a rash.
You have not mentioned at all
Frank, that is absolute crap, Frank.
But you know what?
If I'd have written a column about Tyson Fury's medical condition, you'd have been all over me. How dare I write about his medical condition? Yes, you would have done.
You and I are never going to agree on this, ever.
Because you're bloody wrong. And you're defending Tyson because it represents a commercial interest to you.
I wanted of course I've got a commercial interest. You've got a commercial interest.
No, I don't.
You want to buy it. You want to be controversial. You want to buy.
No, I don't, Frank. I want to call it as I see it.
On all sports, and you get paid for
it. Frank, I don't need the money from broadcasting. I do it because it engages me and interests me. It's not about commercial objectivity. It's about calling things as they really are, because most people don't. And you and your boy can't take it when it's put on your toes. You can give it out, but you can't take it.
I don't give it. Who will I give it out to?
You give it out to anybody you feel like. Up until recently, it was Eddie Hearn.
So tell me, who did I give it out to?
Up until recently, it was Eddie Hearn. Now you're best pals because you've got a common interest. Let's have it right, Frank.
We are business rivals, and I've said what I've had to say, and they're well.
I just gave you an example.
At the moment, for the good of the sport, and we're making money, we're working together.
And fair play, and no one's got a problem with it. But don't get holier than thou, Frank.
And all the fights that you and certainly Adam have complained about not being made are being made.
But that's cobblers, Frank. The only thing that was ever let's deal in facts, Frank. Right? The only thing that was ever said about your boy was that fact that when Usyk's camp said he doesn't want to fight.
No, you're talking about Eddie Hearn. We've done that. Now let's get
going back to what's said, Frank. Deal in facts. You've had plenty to say about Eddie Hearn because you wanted an example of who you've fallen out with and who you get critical of. Right? Now go back to Fury and look at the relationship of what's happened there. The reasons why everyone got the needle about it is not because we questioned the fact that Usyk had said that Tyson had ducked the fight. No, I didn't say he ducked it. Never said it once. I asked the question. It was then put to Tyson through some digital forum, and it came up when we were criticising the Saudi phenomenon, when we talked about the WBC heavyweight champion of the world going in with an MMA fighter. All of a sudden, 6 months ago, someone said something that no one picked up on, and now they're picking up on it because everyone doesn't want the Saudi situation upset by a bunch of British media. That's where it all started from, and that's where the problem has developed from.
Not at all. We didn't want to talk to you long before Saudi. That's not true.
Cobblers, Frank.
It's not cobblers.
Cobblers.
Nobody said here, Frank. Nobody said here that there was never a suggestion from anyone here, as well as Simon. I worked so closely with him, that Tyson was going to duck anything. Frank, actually, while you're online, can we just establish something? We absolutely adore, and do you know what? I was so proud, Frank. Frank, I'm not going to shout over you. Don't you shout over me, Frank? I was so proud of the relationship that we had with Tyson. That we did nothing. Hang on, I'm not finished. That we did nothing. Simon and I did nothing,
Jim,
to affect that relationship.
That Saturday night happened. And what we're not doing at the moment is talking about the fight, which I hope we will be able to in a moment. But the fact of life is, you are not in a position, nor is it going to happen, that he wants to build any bridges with you. It's done.
Couldn't care less.
And that's it. But I'm not bringing it up. You're bringing it up.
No, you brought,
Keep going on about
you
it.
brought up
Like
the
he has an
situation around his medical
He
condition,
doesn't have an
and we commented
obligation
on
to
it.
speak. He doesn't have an obligation to speak to anybody.
No, of course
if
not.
You don't want to.
Of course
and
not.
that's fine,
And that's it.
nobody has
But
a
you
problem
began
with it.
today, Frank, by telling us about this medical condition that he's been suffering from. And,
Of course, because
and we asked,
because
and I asked you.
I'm looking at stories.
I
in the
asked you
newspaper
post a grueling
where he's
fight with
accused of being a
Usyk.
thug and so forth, and about the things that he said, and I'm explaining to you what happens with somebody who is diagnosed with bipolar.
Right.
But you're
And he
using,
ain't gonna be happy.
it as an excuse.
By the
I
way,
wrote an
he
article,
ain't gonna be
Frank.
happy with
You're
me,
commenting
that
on what
I'm
I've written.
But I'm
Frank,
saying,
I wrote an
right?
article, an 800-word article, which
Felt like
criticised
800
criticised in praise and equal measure. And all you want to do is whine about some commentary, which I think is actually fair. I think some of the things that comes out of his mouth and the people that he chooses to have around him are exactly the way I've described it. And I don't think it's unfair, and I think we should probably move on from it and talk about the reality of what Tyson did in the ring on Saturday night.
Yeah, and please, let's do that, because, as I say, we are not going to agree on that. The man is diagnosed
and
with
we've got
that
it, Frank.
condition, and but you should have got it beforehand. You should go on the
Frank,
NHS
rubbish,
website and look at it.
Rubbish.
Different subjects of which need to be ticked off as we're going along, all right? So the first one, regarding my reference of December 23rd being Prosecco, right? I think it's a fair assessment to make that comparison of those drinks to those shows. For example, Champagne being the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world coming up in February. You've got December 23rd, which is a step down from it. That's what I was referring to. That's the analogy that I'm making compared to what we did last December where Tyson Fury fought Derek Chisora. I think that that's a fair assessment of that scenario.
The whole card.
No, I'm talking about events. Champagne is undisputed fight. I think most people will conclude that. Then you've got December 23rd, which would be Prosecco, and then you've got
but like drinks themselves, Adam, and I'm not taking Frank's side, but like drinks themselves, the whole process of boxing is more nuanced.
I'm not saying that. Listen, I'm just giving you an analogy. That's all I was doing. It's an analogy of how
But
I've
you've simplified it, and that's why I think people like Frank have taken umbrage.
Let me just tell you that the heavyweight division has, not through Tyson Fury, through us trying to make fights. I'm not going to go through it all again. We've just gone through that. Mm-hmm. It's not Tyson's fault. In the meantime, the fighters that we work with, the best have fought the best. All of them. I just mentioned all their names. They were all great fights. Cracking heavyweight fights.
Well, hang on, Frank. Just let me jump in on that, right? Because when I make the reference that the heavyweight division hasn't delivered the fights that the fans wanted to see, what I'm referring to is this. You've just made a good point there, right? In that, and again, I made that point of this time last year. So within this 12-month period, you brought up Zhang against Joyce. Great fight. On paper, great fight. Obviously, it played out kind of one-sided with Zhang. Nobody could have predicted that. It was a great fight. Great rematch as well. Everybody was on board with that. Now, I don't want to be derogatory to those fighters, but there are levels to boxing. And there's a top tier of heavyweight, and then there's maybe just a touchdown of people trying to become contenders. And I would put those two gentlemen in that, coming through, trying to be contenders to get into that top table. The top table, I personally refer to as Tyson, AJ, Usyk, Wilder. They're the top four for me.
Why is? Let me ask that question. So why is AJ at that top table, having lost
two-time unified heavyweight champion?
Yeah, but he's lost 3 of his last 5 fights.
But he's a two-time heavyweight champion with 12 world titles.
Yeah, but he's lost 3 of his last 5
But he's
fights.
had 12 world title fights.
Yeah,
he's in that top table.
Hang on a minute. How can you compare? I'm just saying any champion who. A champion's coming off of 3 losses. For example, Deontay White is coming off of 3 losses and so forth. How can you say you don't know how good he's going to be in his next fight out?
No, I don't.
You could choose 5 guys who could beat him in the top 10 at the moment.
Again, this is an opinion, but my opinion is being backed up.
Sorry, with the benefit of hindsight, and it is a benefit of hindsight on your part, at one stage, everybody was saying that Joe Joyce was going to be the toughest fight out there for Tyson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody was
as the
saying,
next level of contender coming through.
A lot of good judges at that time were saying that he would beat AJ at that time. And now what they're saying is Zhang will give him all the problems and stuff.
Absolutely. So Zhang is now taking that level.
The next level. What's happened is that AJ is no longer at that level. He is now.
So you're not saying that he's at the top 10 of the heavyweight division?
Sorry. Let me just say that. Well, go and look at any of the rankings, and I think he may be, as far as Zhang's concerned, in front of him on maybe one one of the...
Yeah, but gents,
come on.
both of you, though, what I will say is this: he's very marketable, isn't he, Frank? He's very marketable.
There's box office, and then there's ability.
Yeah,
Right, so that's what I'm referring
Sorry,
to.
well, hang on a minute. Well, you're talking about quality of fighters.
I'm talking about the fights that the fans want to see. That's what I was referring to.
Right. Well, okay, you may say it, but that doesn't mean they're the best fighters there.
Would you? No. That's not what I'm saying. I said that the heavyweight division has not delivered the fights that the fans want to see.
We've tried to deliver the ones from our end.
That's not what I'm saying.
I can't deliver.
Frank, listen. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that the fans, given facts, right, over the last 12 months, you've just mentioned there, Tyson's fought Derek Chisora and Francis Ngannou. AJ's fought Franklin and Hellenius. Okay, we're giving the pass on the Hellenius because it was supposed to be white, and we all know what happened in that situation. Usyk's fought Dubois, and Wilder's not fought. So it's fair of me to then say that the top table, the box office guys in the heavyweight division, have not delivered the fights that the fans want to see.
You didn't say box office. You said
the fans want to see.
But well, I'm sorry. Your listeners wanted to listen to the fights because you bought the fights we sold. talkSPORT bought the warm lager.
What warm lager? The Tyson Fury and Derek Chisora?
The Zhang, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only one I'm referring to as warm lager.
The Zhang.
If we're going to carry on the drinks analogy, we've had a couple of tequilas on the way, haven't we? That's a great fight. Is Zhang versus Joe Joyce? I had no problem with that fight. Good fight, good contenders fight. They were coming through to be the next level.
Tyson Fury took that fight after, so you just get the sequence of events correct. Instead of just going off on one like you, which I don't accept with you, is the fact was that the fight was, as I've said, was signed to fight Usyk on that December date. If Tyson doesn't fight on that date, then he'd have been out the ring for at least a year. And in the meantime, I've just repeated myself. We went down the road to exchanging contracts with
Anthony Joshua.
Anthony Joshua, who at the end didn't want the fight. That's his prerogative. He didn't want it. Then what we're going to do then we go. So then we go to the next one to fight him, and the next one we went to fight him was Ruiz, who asked for $25 million.
Right, I get that. Just on the Joshua thing, first and foremost, right? On the
so
Joshua
what's he got to do? Get on his backside?
No, not at all. He's got to fight. But on the Joshua thing,
and as for box office, which you refer to, 60,000 tickets at Tottenham.
Listen. On the Joshua thing, we have all seen the Netflix documentary where he puts in the mythical deadline for Anthony Joshua. He never told you.
Mythical. Yeah,
it is mythical. He made it. Listen, you guys were round the table talking to Team Joshua
How long was that segment in that documentary?
Just wait a minute. Let me speak. Frank, let me speak for a second. But I know from speaking to your team and their team that you were round the table and you were doing really well, and it was coming close that there was a possibility of doing the Tyson Fury Anthony Joshua fight. It was going quite well. Then all of a sudden we see 5:00 Monday. That's when you've got to sign the contract for, right? From Tyson Fury does that on social media. And that then causes a problem. We've seen the Netflix documentary where he celebrates the fact that the contract's not signed by that day.
Hearn.
Wait a minute, Gareth. Even though he was asked on the documentary, please give George longer. And he said no. That's what he said.
Well, first of all, he did give longer. And you're only looking at a very short segment of the documentary.
So that's what I've got to go off.
All right, you've said
that's what I've got to go off.
No, it's not what you've got to go off, because that documentary come out well after you said it.
No, it
even know that.
No, it isn't. When the documentary came out is when I said it.
That is untrue, because you were saying this over 6 months ago. That's not true. That's not true. I know for a fact. Go and listen back to your shows. And the fact of the matter is, which you still don't get. This is what I don't understand about it. You're running a boxing. You have got a boxing show. Okay, so you'd think that you'd be telling your listeners some facts, and the facts were. It was the deadline was there because Tyson was, who am I training for? We're only so many weeks away now from the fight. I need an opponent. If not, we get somebody else. But the fact was, we're negotiating. We're sending contracts to a fellow who didn't even have a trainer. How was he going to fight?
Frank,
tell me, how was he going to fight? He never had a trainer.
Frank.
Yeah.
The evidence is there for everybody to see.
What evidence? The evidence is there. He didn't have a trainer. So how was we were going through we were going through these negotiations with somebody who was never ever going to fight. never be ready. That's why I had a bet with Tyson, because I said he would fight, and Tyson said, this fella's not fighting, I'm telling you. And I had a bet with him, and he donated that money to Deborah, the charity. No, not okay.
No,
We'll get to the bottom line of it. So go and listen. Go back and listen to IFL's. And there was another one. I don't know what the other YouTube channel. Go back and listen. And Frank Smith says immediately after, more or less immediately after we announced that fight, it was never going to happen anyway. It was too soon, and he hasn't even got a trainer.
Okay, how do we move this forward?
Move what forward?
Well, obviously there's a problem, isn't there, with Tyson and talkSPORT, isn't there? How do we move that forward?
Well, I think that you're going to have to speak to him about. I can't move it forward. He's got his views, and he's where he's at. You know, I've been trying to explain this, but even up until a couple of minutes ago, you're still saying the same man.
But that's an opinion, isn't it?
You speak as a fan. You want the ideal world.
You can have an opinion, and everybody's entitled to opinion, but sometimes there should be an informed opinion, and sometimes you should listen what's going on and hear what's going on. When you've got people from the other side, for example, in the Joshua situation, saying how it is, being very honest.